sacrifice? Cecilia smirked to herself, taking another slow sip of tea. She had won. At least that's what she thought. Just as she leaned back in her chair, savoring the silence, Theodore's footsteps came down the foyer to the dining room. She barely had time to mask her surprise before he was standing in the doorway again, his posture as relaxed as ever. His expression was unreadable. "You came back for round two?" Cecilia mused, setting her teacup down delicately. Theodore didn't answer at first. He simply tilted his head, studying her like she was one of his business deals gone bad. "You know, Cecilia," he started, voice smooth, calculated, "you never ask why I'm still here." Cecilia's smirk wavered. "Excuse me? Why haven't I left you yet?" He shrugged, stepping closer, sliding his hands into his pockets. "Why do I still wake up next to you every morning? Why do I still sit at this table and listen to you talk about Givian like he's a goddamn chess piece instead of our son?" Her jaw tightened, but she forced a small, knowing smile. "Because you know better." Theodore chuckled under his breath, shaking his head. "No, that's what you tell yourself." Cecilia's fingers tightened around the porcelain handle of her teacup. "Let me tell you what's going on," he continued, walking slowly toward her. "I stay because I know exactly who I married. Because I know exactly what you are." He reached the table, stopping just beside her. His voice dropped lower. "And because I want you to know that I'm not afraid of you." Cecilia's blood went cold. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't expected, uncertainty. She held his gaze, her heartbeat steady but sharp. "You wouldn't dare." Theodore smirked, but his eyes were empty. "Wouldn't I?" Cecilia stared at him, gripping her teacup so tightly she thought it might crack. She wanted to snap back with something vicious, but for the first time in their entire marriage, she found herself at a loss for words, because she realized something she had never had before. Her husband wasn't afraid of her, and that was a problem. Theodore smirked as he turned away, heading toward the door once more, but Cecilia couldn't let him leave without getting the last word. "You married for love, Theodore," she said, voice dripping with venom. "And look where that got you." Theodore stopped in the doorway, chuckling under his breath. "Yeah, bit me in the ass, didn't it?" Cecilia scoffed, setting down her cup with a sharp clink. "Please, your dick wasn't why I married you." She shot him a look of pure disgust. Theodore turned, grinning darkly. "Right, my little dick." He folded his arms. "That little dick that, by the way, paid for those fake tits and that funky BBL you swear looks good." Cecilia's nostrils flared, her grip on the table tightening. "I know plenty of men who wouldn't mind taking this ride." Theodore just shook his head, walking further into the room, his tone turning serious. "I'm sure you do." He locked eyes with her, his voice dropping lower. "Just leave my son out of your mess. He doesn't need to be a part of your schemes." Cecilia's lips curled into a bitter smirk. "Schemes? Is that what you call wanting my son to have a future?" She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "You wouldn't understand, Theodore. You don't know what it's like to grow up with nothing. To watch your mother scrape together pennies just to keep the lights on. To see her break her back for a man who died and left her with nothing but debt." Theodore sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Cecilia, no, listen to me." Her voice was ice, but her hands trembled against the table. "I watched my mother die broke, alone, and miserable because she married for love." For a split second, her voice wavered. But then, as quickly as it had come, she buried it, drowning it under her usual sharp tone. "Because she chose a man who had nothing. I swore to myself that I would never, never end up like her." Theodore's eyes darkened. "And in doing so, you've turned yourself into someone worse." Cecilia's smirk vanished. "Excuse me?" Theodore leaned in just slightly, lowering his voice. "Your mother may have died poor, but at least she was human. At least she felt something. You?" He shook his head. "You're so busy trying to buy security that you don't even see how hollow you've become." Cecilia clenched her jaw, but there was something unreadable in her eyes, just for a moment. Something like doubt. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. She smirked, tilting her head. "And yet, despite all that, you're still here." Theodore let out a slow breath, looking at her as if he were seeing her for the last time. "Yeah, but not forever." Without another word, Theodore turned and walked away again. As the sound of his footsteps faded down the hall, Cecilia exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the table. He wasn't supposed to change. He wasn't supposed to fight back. And for the first time in years, she felt the sting of losing control. This time, he didn't come back. Elsewhere, as the sun dipped lower into the sky. His swing creaked as Givian lazily kicked at the gravel beneath him, staring up at the hazy sky. The air was warm, the scent of freshly cut grass hanging heavy. Diana sat beside him, twisting slightly in her swing, watching him. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then, you're really out of options, huh? Diana finally said, her voice smooth, teasing, but knowing. Gideon exhaled sharply through his nose. Feels like it, she smirked, rocking back on the swing. So what's the plan, genius? You can't just sit here sulking. You know how she is. He knew exactly what she meant. His mother. She wasn't going to let this go. Not unless he made her. He let his head fall back against the chains, staring up at the deepening sky. I need her to think I don't care about Abby anymore. Diana raised an eyebrow. You mean like, make her believe you want Abby to be miserable? Gideon clenched his jaw. The thought of it made him sick. But if it meant protecting Abby, if it meant keeping her out of his mother's crosshairs, he had to make it believable. Diana watched him carefully, then tilted her head. I assume this is where I come in. Gideon looked at her then, his expression unreadable. She knew what he was going to ask. He didn't have to say a word. Diana smirked. So we fake it? Gideon nodded once. We fake it. Diana leaned back in her swing, kicking one foot up. Well, it's not like it's a terrible idea. Gideon gave her a look. You just want to see how long we can get away with it. She shrugged, flashing a grin. Maybe. He sighed, shaking his head. You know this isn't a joke, right? Her smirk softened slightly, and for a moment Diana looked serious. I know, she wasn't just humoring him. She understood. If this kept his mother away from Abby, then it had to be done. If Gideon didn't make this look real, his mother would never stop. And if Abby kept trying to get back into his life, she'd be in more danger than she realized. He couldn't let that happen. Diana twisted the swing chains in her grip, her voice quieter now. You think she'll buy it? Gideon smirked bitterly. She'll believe whatever lets her pretend she's already won. Gideon pulled out his phone, unlocking it with a swipe. Alright, let's make it official. Diana leaned in beside him, her hair falling against his shoulder as they both stared at the screen. He snapped a picture, just the two of them, laughing under the bright sun. Too close, too familiar, too real. It would be perfect. Gideon typed out a caption, his fingers hesitating over the keyboard for just a second before he forced himself to finish it. He stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over post. This was it, the point of no return. Abby was going to see this. Finally, where I belong, #new beginnings, his stomach twisted. He stared at the post, knowing this was the moment everything changed. Diana glanced at him before he pressed send, her smirk still there, but softer now. No turning back after this. Gideon didn't answer. He just pressed post. Just like that, the lie became reality.